Hey guys, it's Sarah. So lately I saw a show on Netflix. Stranger Things. It's freaking amazing. Oh my god. The show is a supernatural thriller and it's thrilled me. It's so good, and if you haven't seen it yet, I would recommend it. Anyway, as you can tell by the title of this video, I have taken it upon myself to create a book tag about Stranger Things. So I've created 8 questions in honor of the 8 episodes, and I wish that there were more. Without further ado, here is the Stranger Things book tag. Question 1. Epic intro. The opening sequence of Stranger Things is absolutely fantastic and completely grabs your attention. Name a book that grabbed your attention from the first page. For this, I'm gonna pick The Kiss of Deception by Mary E. Pearson. This book is fantastic. I recently read and reviewed it, and I will leave the review down below if you'd like to hear more. But essentially, we start out with this girl who is a princess. She's getting these marriage markings put onto her back. It's a big ritual, and just like her inner dialogue is really interesting. From the very first page, I was just completely grabbed by this story, and I wanted to know more. Question 2. Dungeons and Dragons. Name a fantasy world that you would like to experience yourself. There's a lot of fantasy worlds to choose from, and the obvious answer would of course be Harry Potter, magical fantasy world, but I'm gonna try and pick something else. I've selected The World of the Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. I realize this book is kind of like an urban fantasy, so the world is essentially the same, but in this world there's also a completely magical, wizardy circus that travels around, and I would love to be able to experience this so much. This book is amazing. This is such a good book, you guys. It's not like super over-the-top fantasy magic. You have the modern conveniences of not being a peasant in a feudal society, but then also magic. The best of both worlds. Hannah Montana moment. Best of both. But yeah, so I'm gonna say this, because it's so good. Number 3, squad goals. When 11 met Mike, Dustin, and Lucas, it was a mostly perfect team. Name your favorite bookish group of friends. Once again, I could go the basic route of just saying the Harry Potter trio, but I'm not gonna do that to you guys. Instead, I'm gonna say the squad in the Raven cycle. Blue is very reminiscent of 11 in a little bit of a way. I'm a girl and this is a boy group, but I'm also way more badass than you guys. I've only read the first book, but I just got the second and third book, so I am going to be finishing this series very soon. But from what I have read, I adore this like ragtag group of friends. I really like the vibes of Blue, Gansey, Ronan, Noah, and Adam. Just the whole thing is just really fantastic, and I'm really excited to have like 3 more books in this series to read because it's just so good. Question 4. ABCs and Christmas lights. Joyce Byers goes mad with grief after her son Will goes missing. Name your favorite mentally unhinged character. For this, I'm gonna have to say Juliet from Shatter Me. I haven't read any more of the series, just Shatter Me. Her whole thing is that she's kind of crazy-ish, and the whole prose has like the straight through lines and like repetition, and I just really enjoy her mental aspect of her character, you know what I mean? If you've read it, you know. Juliet essentially kind of has like, not PTSD, but kind of, not to like be an armchair psychologist, like I took Psychology 101, PTSD, but she's got some issues, a little bit unhinged, gotta say, but I like her character because it's so damaged and frail. That sounded bad. I promise I'm not a high-functioning sociopath. But I do really want to finish the Shatter Me series. I have book 2 and I want to buy book 3 because I know a lot of people really like it, like Whitney and Chemi. So I'm sorry, I haven't finished it yet. Question 5. the upside down. Name a book that was the complete opposite of what you expected. Okay, so I don't really want to double dip for a question, but I'm going to do it anyway. So I'm going to pick The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater again. For some reason, I thought this was a medieval fantasy. It is most certainly not. So I was reading the first few pages, and then they start talking about Walmart, and I was like, what the shit is happening? But, so yeah, I like didn't really look too much into the story, but just like the vibe I got was medieval fantasy with magic and witches, and that's not what this is about. So that was a little confusing, but I moved past it, and I have no regrets because this book is bae. Number 6, Mad Scientist. Dr. Brenner likes to get freaky with humanity. Name the freakiest, bookish, dystopian government that you can think of. I've heard that Red Rising by Pierce Brown has a good one, but I haven't read that one, so I can't use it. We are going back to the basics with this one, folks, but I'm going to be using The Hunger Games Government by Suzanne Collins. The whole premise of rounding up children for slaughter very publicly, a little terrifying. And like, I've read this series, this is like the only dystopian series that I've actually finished the whole trilogy. I don't know, just like this, it's just like so brutal and unapologetically so that it's just very unappealing. Number 7, Demogorgon. Name a scary, bookish creature that you would not want coming through your walls at night. For this, I'm going to pick Hollows from the Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children series by Ransom Riggs. I know the movie's coming out, and the way that they've made the Hollows look is not scary at all. When I read this book, I pictured a terrifying monster that was just like so spooky and just like gross and awful, and so I'm selecting it for something I would not want to come through my walls. Not that it would, because it only goes after peculiars, but, you know, we're dealing in hypotheticals right now. Side note, The Tales of the Peculiar is coming out soon. Are you guys buying it? I don't know if I should buy it or not, because I don't know if it's gonna be worth it. Because it's just kind of like extra stories, but then it's also like almost $30 to buy, so I'm kind of on the fence. What do you think? Number 8, cliffhanger ending. Name a book that left you wanting more. I'm gonna pick a recent read, and that's The Girls by Emma Cline. This book is based very loosely on the Manson murders in the 1960s. So we kind of have the story about this girl named Evie. It's told in dual perspectives, so it's her when she's 14 in the 60s and her as an adult in present time. And we jump back and forth between her now and her reliving what happened as she was wrapped up in the goings-ons of a cult. Overall, I thought this book was pretty decent, however, I hated how it ended. I'm not going to say anything spoilery, but all I can say is it was super open-ended, and I really didn't feel like the conclusion was very satisfying. This is part of the reason why I don't trust contemporary books, because contemporary is about the real life, and real life is full of disappointments. I mean, I did like this book, don't get me wrong, it's just the ending was like blah. Alright, well that was the tag. I've never made a tag before, so hopefully this is like decent. If you haven't seen Stranger Things yet, you should watch it. If you have watched Stranger Things, let's talk about it. I went on Twitter and I tried to find some booktubers that were into Stranger Things so I could tag people who were into it. So I've created a list on my phone. Allow me to read. Okay, so I want to tag Jessie Elise from Jessie Elise, Hannah from A Clockwork Reader, Trina from Between Chapters, Emma from Emma Books, Sasha from A Book Utopia, Yessie from The Book Vagrant, Cassie from Miss Sassy Cassie, Casey from Casey N Books, and Kate from Girl Reading. And of course, if you want to do this tag as well, I highly encourage you to please do it. Spreading the love of Stranger Things here, okay? But yeah, so thank you guys so much for watching my video. My name is Sarah. Stay weird, and I will see you in another video.